A year and a half ago, I made one of the biggest decisions of my life, and I decided to drop out of college as a business finance major to pursue my dream of working in the film industry. In the past year and a half, I've worked on 3 feature films, countless commercials, student films, I've started a YouTube page, I've gone to travel with work, and most recently, I've gone into the International Cinematographers Guild. And I feel that I'm finally at a point where I'm far enough away from my decision to drop out of college that I can talk about why I did it and whether or not it was the right choice for me. When I started to apply to colleges when I was 17, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wasn't one of those kids who had figured out what they wanted to do when they were 13 and perfectly executed their plan throughout high school. You know, when I was 13, I was still excited when my mom put a juice box in my lunch. You know, I was still having fun back then. But then you turn 17, and it feels like at 17, it's your responsibility to figure out what you want to do with your life, even though you're only 17 years old. So I went to college, you know. I didn't really know what to expect. You know, I knew it wasn't going to be like the movies. I wasn't going to USC. I wasn't going to a party school. I was going to a local Cal State to get an education. For the first years of college, the general motto seems to be just get through your GEs. You know, just show up, sit down, take these classes. And I remember the first couple of GEs I took, I would always sit in the back of the class and I would look down on the lecture. I was amazed that for a lot of the time, nobody was paying attention. You know, it seems like a quarter of the kids are on Facebook. The other kids are shopping online. You know, a quarter of us are asleep, us. And then the other quarter doesn't even show up to class. I was kind of amazed, you know, I thought I was going to be the only one that didn't want to be here. I thought I was going to be the only one who was bored by these subjects I was being taught. And I've been told a million times the point of GEs is to make you a well-rounded student. But I didn't really understand that, especially when for the past 4 years of my life, I've been sitting in high school taking pretty much these same classes, just with a different workload. And I always felt that if we were to restructure GEs, you know, instead of having these students take these classes that they've already taken several times before and teach them real life skills, it might be useful. You know, for instance, it seems that in the past couple of years, every college class that graduates has fewer jobs and higher debt than the last one. So why don't we start teaching college students about debt? You know, why don't we start teaching them about credit and how a bad credit score can haunt you forever, or teach them about mortgage, or teach them about retirement plans, you know, IRAs, Roth IRAs. I feel like oftentimes we're too focused on trying to take students and push them through the system and hand them a degree, and not focused enough on giving them the skills to be successful in life. I quickly realized, and by quickly, I mean it took me 2.5 years of going to college to figure out that college was preparing me for a life that I didn't want to live. A life of a 9-to-5 job with a water cooler in the corner and a cubicle with my name on it. A place where I count down the days until casual Friday. To me, that's not living at all. So I decided to drop out. And just because I dropped out doesn't mean my education stopped. These days I spend more time on college campuses than I ever did when I was going for a degree. And there's so many amazing resources online like TED.com, Lynda.com, and Creative Mornings that you can learn from if you're willing to sit down and put in the time. One of the biggest things I've learned is that if I actually care, if I actually have passion about something I'm reading or something I'm studying, it's so much easier to learn it. You know, it's not learning and splurging just for a test or just to get through this class. Like if I actually care about the information, it's so much easier to retain. One of the major questions I got asked when I told people I was dropping out of college was, why don't you just finish your degree? And I'll admit, it's a pretty good question. You know, I was more than halfway through college. Finishing up my degree would have not been that big of a challenge. But I know myself, and I know that on the route that I'm taking with my life, there's gonna be days when it's hard. You know, there's gonna be days when I wish I had a consistent paycheck. When I kinda wish I had that 9-to-5 job. And I know that if I have a degree sitting in my back pocket, it's gonna be so hard to not execute on it. It's gonna be so hard when I'm trying something new and I'm failing. It's not just to go to the comfortable ground, you know, to keep on trying, to keep on failing, and to keep pushing forward. And that's what I'm trying to do.